Assalamu alaikum, guys. I hope everyone is well. I know I'm starting a little bit early. The live stream is scheduled for 6:45. But mashallah, I noticed that there's a few of you on already and you have some questions. So I thought we'll start early and start addressing some of your questions, inshallah. And then we'll get into the topic. Although there's not much I want to say today, um, but I really want to try and answer some of your questions. So if you guys have questions, I want to do more of a Q&A today. Please do share them so I can try to address whichever ones I can address, inshallah, and relate to the dawah, etc. Okay, so walaikum salam to everyone that's joining. May Allah bless you all. I hope you're all well. Um, walaikum salam to everyone. Logical is on. Abdul Adil, Israr, Mamuna, sorry. All of you know, Alia, Shingami, I think that's how you say it. Boan, Bon, and everyone else, mashallah. Electro, all of you guys joining. Hassan, salam alaikum to everyone. So look, I wanted to quickly share something with you guys on the meaning of life and atheism. And it's related to something that's happened or something I came across, something Subur actually shared with me recently, which was about a guy on Twitter, an atheist, ex-Muslim, I don't know who he was, someone on Twitter. And I'm going to share his Twitter handle with you just so you guys can maybe go help him out and give him some da'wah and just advise him, because he seems to be quite, going through quite a rough patch at the moment, where he's basically just, he's coming out and he's starting to look into the question of God again, starting to look for God again. He even says on one of his tweets, he's longing for God. He's in search of God. He's getting a lot of hate by ex-Muslims and atheists, obviously, because he was a part of that group apparently maybe a little while back. And first you have to commend him for his bravery. His Twitter handle is introverted smiles. I think that's what it is. I've messaged him myself to try get through to him and speak to him, but he hasn't responded yet. But I would encourage you guys as well to just give him some advice, give him some words of assurance, etc. Because we have to really, empathize with his position, guys, because, and especially, ex-Muslims who were previously associated with Islam and then left and became atheists, especially those guys, they really feel it when they turn away from God. And I've noticed this, and I think there's a reason for this. I'm going to share my thoughts in regards to why I think that's the case. But he's someone that's come out and he's sharing how he actually feels. He's not covering things up. He's saying, look, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling low, I'm feeling, I feel the need for God in my life. I feel the need to connect with my creator, to seek him out. Life is meaningless, life is pointless otherwise. And he's being open about it. So we have to commend him for this and make dua for him that Allah guides him and shows him the truth. And we want to let him know that we're there for him, and we want to support him and try to help him in whichever way we can to find the truth and come to the truth again. That being said, going back to the point, why does it seem like ex-Muslims, especially those that leave Islam, really feel it more than even atheists sometimes, this void, this meaninglessness when they turn away from God? And I think the simple reason is because these guys once upon a time actually got to taste and experience to an extent, to a degree, how life is supposed to be experienced and how it's supposed to feel. They once upon a time experienced that balance and that peace and tranquility, that a human being is bound to experience when they recognize their creator and they recognize their relationship with their creator. The human being is created to worship Allah. And whenever we try to even do that, even if we're not getting close or we're missing the mark, even when we try to do that with the correct understanding of who Allah is and our relationship to him, we start to feel that balance and that tranquility and that peace that we're searching for. But when they turn away from this, once having tasted the truth, when they turn away from this, then they experience, the constriction and the depression and the sadness of turning away from Allah far more than, I would say, in most cases, far more than someone that's never tasted the truth in the first place. It's like with anything else in life. I mean, if I was to give you an example, maybe this isn't a good example, but I'll share it anyway. Those of you who may have smoked cigarettes in the past, may have been ex-smokers. When you quit smoking, and I know this is a really bad example, but just go with me for a second. When you quit smoking, you may not smoke for years, you may leave it forever and get over the habit, but you still, there's something back in the back of your mind there's still that connection there with whenever you smell that smell, that scent, whenever you see cigarettes or think about them, there's something that's triggered because you've experienced it once in your life. It's like with anything, uh if you experience. Okay, let me give you a better example. The cigarette, ignore the cigarette. It's the smoking example. Let me give you a better example. Imagine you've experienced a healthy lifestyle, right? You started to eat healthy, you started to exercise, you started to do all of the good things, right? Take your supplements, multivitamins, go for walks, etc. Do all of those healthy things, and you've experienced a healthy lifestyle. Now, when you go back to that sort of junk lifestyle, where you're eating junk food again and not exercising, etc., you feel the pain of not doing what you know is good for you, not living the way you should be living. Because once you experience what a good diet, how it affects your body and how it makes you feel and how you have that clarity of mind, and then you go to a junk food diet, you really feel, you miss that clarity you had, and because you experienced it once upon a time. And I think it's similar with ex-Muslims in many cases, that because they've experienced that psychological, spiritual, emotional balance to an extent, being Muslim, when they leave that, when they leave Allah and they turn away from Allah, that storm that they experience then of imbalance, of just this pit of emptiness, this black hole of meaninglessness, they really feel it, man, and they really feel it hard. And that's why even this guy, he even shared some of the comments of other ex-Muslims and how they're trying to deal with this, with godlessness, antidepressants, alcohol, and this is not secret. It's on their forums. I mean, they're trying to deal with meaninglessness, nihilism in the absence of God, and they can't deal with it. They struggle. They really, really struggle, guys. So those that are realizing their folly and they've realized that atheism isn't the answer. Denial of God is not the answer. We weren't created to live like this. Atheism is not the right philosophy, if you like. It's not the philosophy that sits well with human nature. And they wake up to this reality. We need to try help these guys, and make dua for them, and try to be there for them whichever way we can, inshallah. And yeah, that's it. I just wanted to share this, guys. I've said this over and over again. As human beings, we are meaning-driven creatures. We are creatures that are geared, everything about us is geared towards seeking out a purpose, achieving a goal, finding meaning in things. We create things with meaning. When we look at things around us in the world, we ascribe meaning to those things. This is a part of our nature. We can't run away from this. There was a very interesting book I've just started to read. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's a very old book, but it's one of the classic self-help type books, on positive psychology and stuff like this. And the author, one of the things he highlights is that our brains and our nervous systems are designed to seek out goals and achieve goals. You set a goal in your mind, and automatically your whole being will start to work towards that goal. And that's how we're designed. But the crazy thing here is that when you turn away from God, you remove the ability to ever find the answers to the ultimate purpose of life, the real purpose of your existence. You can never find in the absence of God. Why do I exist in the first place? That first fundamental question, what is the purpose of my existence? You'll never find answers to that question in the absence of God. You will never find answers to that question. I mean, try, go ahead. All you can do in that situation is say, look, I'm going to give myself purpose in this life. My purpose is to do X, Y, and Z. That's all you guys can do. That's all the atheists can do. When you turn away from Allah, when it comes to the question of what is the purpose of my existence, what is the ultimate purpose of my life, why do I exist, there are no answers. You are simply an accident. That's all you are in atheism and naturalism. That's it. So when the most fundamental purpose is removed of your existence, then what meaning do those trivial, purpose is that we give our life whole anymore. You know what? To be a doctor, to be an engineer, to live a good life, to do charity. What does these things mean anymore? Nothing. I mean, if your life foundationally has no meaning, there is no meaning to your existence, then what does it mean even to give yourself a goal in life or a purpose in life? What does that mean? It means nothing. It's pointless. It literally is pointless. And that is the, subhanAllah, that is the, it's a sign from Allah for those that end up in that position to think about it. Everything about you is about reaching finding purpose, finding meaning, striving to achieve goals. But when it comes to your own existence in the absence of God, you have no meaning or purpose. You're going against your very nature by turning away from Allah. And that's what people don't realize. That's what atheists don't realize. And that's what ex-Muslims don't realize until they then face the consequences, which is depression and anxiety and sadness. And Allah says this in the Quran. Those that turn away from His remembrance would have a constricted and difficult life. Ma'ishatan danka. Even in the word, in the ayah, it's in Surah Baqarah. They will have a life which is constricted, narrow, depressed, danka. Even when you say the word dank, it's like the back of your throat's closing off. You're literally choking, right? You experience the word itself captures the meaning of that word. So the way you say the word adds to and captures the meaning of that word itself. That's constriction. It's like it's a closing it's a closing off. It's a tightness. That type of person, Ibn Kathir, for example, in his tafsir of this particular ayah, Ibn Kathir mentions that this type of person who turns away from the remembrance of his creator. Now think about this, guys. He says this type of person, he can have everything. He can have everything from a worldly perspective. All the money, all the power, all the material possessions, everything. But still there will be an emptiness inside him, a constriction, a tightness within them. And that's the state of these people. I mean, it's evident for all of us to see. I mean, you want proof? Look, it's right in front of you. And we're looking for abstract proofs out there. I mean, our lives are proofs of Allah itself. Turn away from Him and bear the consequences, the very thing Allah mentions over 1400 years ago in the Quran. Turn to Him and find peace and tranquility, exactly what Allah mentions in the Quran over 1400 years ago. And this is why I keep saying the Quran is precise and accurate without flaw to the very letter. Literally, in meaning, in construction, in every way. The ayat of the Quran, if you like a real world exegesis of the Quran is continuing to unfold in front of us as time goes by. Allah says, those that turn away from His remember will have a constricted life, exactly what we see in those that turn away from the atheists, the ex-Muslims. Their lives are testament to the reality of this ayah and the truthfulness of this statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the opposite is true too. Allah says, in the remembrance of Allah, hearts find rest. Ask those, I experience it for yourself. Those atheists and ex-Muslims, turn to Allah, worship Him. God is not asking you to write off your life, sign a check for $1 million or something. No. All He's telling you to do is acknowledge Him, turn to Him, and be grateful to Him. Worship Him. What are you going to lose? What are you going to lose? You're only going to gain. But I don't know. People just don't see it, man. And then they're willing to bear the consequences of turning away from Allah. Anyway, I'm going to stop the rant. Get back to your questions, inshallah. So brothers and sisters, if you guys have any questions, let's just go straight to Q&A, inshallah. I don't want to go on for any longer. So I want to make this a Q&A session today, inshallah. So any questions, please do post them. And the ones that I can answer, I will definitely try to answer, inshallah. So I'm going to go from the top. Okay. So Alia says, let me just pop it on the screen if I can. Okay, Alia says, Brother Imran, how does a person find his purpose of life? Like I know as a Muslim that we are created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but what would be specifically my purpose of life in my circumstances? Okay, it's a very good question, Sister Alia. So we need to understand this and see the link here between life and the way we live life and the purpose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us of in the Quran. So Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. For example, Allah says that He did not create us for any other reason, for no other reason except to worship him, to know him and to worship. That's the purpose of our existence. Allah says we were not created for any other reason. Okay, now that should inform us and let us know that therefore worshipping Allah is not just about the 5 daily prayers or the 5 pillars of Islam or or fulfilling the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon us in the Quran, or to live by the laws of Allah. These are all a part of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when Allah says we were created for no other reason, we have to understand that worship is holistic, right? So sure, Allah has informed us all of us were created to worship him, but how we manifest this worship beyond what Allah has stipulated for us clearly in the Quran, what Islam tells us, for example, the 5 daily prayers, fasting in the month of Ramadan, etc., etc. Those are obligatory upon every single Muslim. We all have to do those things. But then for some of us, we sit there and think, okay, but what about the time between the 5 daily prayers, right? So I have several hours in the day where I'm working, I'm taking care of my kids, I'm doing my shopping, I'm talking to my neighbors, talking to my friends, spending time with family. There's all these hours. Where's the link here with the worship? Now, here's how I understand it, and this is my personal understanding, which I'm going to share with you. You guys can, if it's not satisfactory, you feel like, please go and speak to someone of knowledge and get this clarified. But here's how I understand it. We have to understand that every moment of our living lives, when we're functioning, every single moment, whether we're spending time with family, we're shopping, we're taking care of someone, we're doing work, it all can be worship. It should all be seen as worship. All we have to do is we have to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Realize that every moment that we are given is a gift from Allah, right? That we don't own it. It doesn't belong to us. We didn't earn it in any way, shape, or form. It's from Allah. It's a gift. Every moment is a gift, and we should be grateful, therefore. Immediately, a sense of gratitude should emerge from within us, realizing that every moment that we're living, every second that goes by and we're getting another second off, that is a gift. And therefore, that should automatically trigger a response of gratitude from within us. So we should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should thank him and be aware of this as much as we can, right? And as long as we're conscious of Allah, then our entire lives can be worship. And obviously, practically, we won't be able to do this every single second. But obviously, Allah is the one that overlooks and He forgives. So as long as we're aware and we're grateful, and then inshallah, Allah will accept this from us. And this is what. So even if it means, but at the end of the day, we sit down and we just reflect upon our day and we thank Allah for the entire day, for every moment that He gave us, and we're grateful for it, and we say Alhamdulillah. That's worship. So there is a scope, there is a realm where you can be creative with your worship, as long as it's within the confines of Islam, right? The Quran and the Sunnah. But there is a realm of a space of creativity, right? Where we can use our imaginations and we can use our skills and the things Allah has blessed us with as individuals, and we can express those and manifest those, and that becomes a very powerful means of worship. So really think about that as well. And this is why, especially from a dawah perspective, I always encourage brothers and sisters, look, don't just copy someone else. Don't just try to be like Hamza or Hijab or Sabur or anyone else for that matter. Sit down and really think about what skills Allah has blessed you with, what skills God has blessed you with, special skills. And you will have skills that no one else has. You will have unique traits that no one else has. Find those and then ask yourself a question. How can I use these for the sake of Allah? And when you manifest those skills for the sake of Allah, that will be worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That will be a part of your worship towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You sitting there thinking about this is worship. Inshallah, may Allah accept this from all of us. But it's all about having that mindset. Allah's given me an opportunity in this life. He created me and He didn't create me for no reason. Every moment I have on this planet, even if I'm working and earning a living and I'm going to provide for my family, I should do this knowing Allah created me, He gave me a family. I have to earn from them, and I'm going to earn in the most halal way possible. And I'm going to work and I'm going to do ihsan in my work and I'm going to give everything I have. And when I do that, that's going to be a form of dawah for other people as well, because they're going to see me, here's a Muslim and he's putting in so much effort in his work. And that may incline someone towards Islam, a work colleague towards Islam. So start thinking in that way. And that's how we need to live as Muslims, consciously, being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. So hopefully that addresses that question of yours, inshallah. So Hassan says, Salam, my question is, why does God only guide who he wants, or out of a seal, or out a seal on people's hearts, puts a seal on people's hearts? I think that's what he's saying. This is mentioned a lot in the Quran. Okay, very good question, Hassan. Alhamdulillah, I actually was looking into this a little while back. So look, we need to, the who I referred to and asked the question to, someone I consider a teacher, they said to me that you have to understand this. Absolutely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides, and Allah is the one that seals hearts. But you have to understand that Allah doesn't just seal anyone's heart, and Allah doesn't just guide anyone. Allah highlights this in the Quran too. Whose hearts are sealed? Those people that create mischief, those people that turn away, those people that deliberately disbelieve in the truth, etc., etc. Right? Allah seals their hearts. Best example of this is you can go to Surah Baqarah, Al-Baqarah, and read the first several passages, the first several ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah, and you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights, whose hearts are sealed. And throughout the Quran, this is something that reoccurs over and over again. So Allah seals the hearts of those who deliberately turn away, who ignore the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he guides those who are honest, who are sincere, who are humble, who have certain traits. So there is a two-way to this, right? This if you like, relationship that's going on that we need to understand. It's not just an arbitrary thing. Allah is the most just. Allah is established upon justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. He is the perfect being in every way, shape, or form. So Allah does not do injustice in any way, shape, or form. So if Allah guides someone, it's someone that deserves to be guided. If Allah seals someone's hearts, then they deserve that seal upon their hearts. And that's how we have to understand this, inshallah. And Allah knows best. That's just the way I've understood it from my teacher. Okay, let's go on. Can you share your thoughts on predestination? This is a topic, it comes up over and over again, man. I've got actually a video of this with Yusuf Ponders on my channel, so definitely check that out, on predestination and free will. But one thing I would say, brothers and sisters, how we need to understand this is this. We have to take the approach of humility here. There are some things we have to recognize that are beyond us, okay? And if we don't recognize this, and we start to think and be influenced by certain philosophers and thinkers, as unfortunately some Muslims were in our history, then we will fall into pits. We'll just fall off track, right? We'll fall off track one way or the other. And we don't want to do this, guys, right? So when it comes to free will and predestination, we have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined everything and he knows everything. That's a fact. But at the very same time, from our realm, our sphere, as limited human beings that exist within this temporal existence, this material existence, we have free will, as Allah has told us. We have the ability to choose. This is a blessing from Allah and also a great responsibility. So how these two things merge, Allah knows best. We don't know. This is beyond us. Because remember, we can only understand things from our sphere, which is we live in this material physical existence and we are bound by time, which goes from A to Z. It goes in one way. So we're going from today and we're going into the future, right? And the past is behind us. That's the way we understand reality, right? But for Allah, it's from the realm of God, it's totally different. He's not bound by time as we are, so how these two realities now merge, Allah knows best. We don't know, right? So it's beyond us, and that's the humble position to take. But I think understanding this, we shouldn't delve upon these things too much. We have to remember what our objective is as human beings. We're not here to philosophize and understand these things. That's not why Allah created us. Allah created us so that we worship Him. We understand Allah has given us a choice, a free will, therefore we can choose to worship Allah or turn away from Him. But if we, out of our own choice, choose to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submit to Him, then that brings us to a level higher than the angels as well, because all other creation are submitting to Allah, not out of choice, but just because they were created to do so, right? So what we need to do is, whenever there's a question, and here's a principle I guess you guys can take. Whenever there's a question that emerges in your minds in regards to Islam, always assess it from this one angle first. Is this question, or the answer to this question, going to help facilitate my success in this life and the hereafter? So is the question and the answer to this question that's popped up in my head going to facilitate my success as a human being in this life and the hereafter? If the answer is yes, then go and search for the answer, right? And spend time with that question. If the answer is no, then understand it the best you can and just put it aside, and then move on to focusing on things that really matter. Because unfortunately, what ends up happening, and Shaitan plays with us in this way too, he gets us to focus on questions and things which are completely irrelevant to our existence, completely relevant to us making the most of this life, which is temporary and is short. And he ends up sticking us in and delving into questions which have no relevance and which have no answers from our limited human perspective. And we waste so much time and energy in it, and we invest so much mental power in trying to find answers to these questions, which we'll never be able to find answers to, that we almost go crazy. And I've seen this. I've seen brothers and sisters on the verge of madness because they've just burnt themselves out thinking about something which is completely insignificant, right? So don't fall into this trap, brothers and sisters. Yeah. So like I said, just keep this principle in mind. Whenever a question pops into your head, right, ask yourself, is this question or the answer to this question going to facilitate my success in this life and the hereafter? If the answer is yes, then pursue it. If the answer is no, then just put it aside. Especially if it's something you realize is just beyond you. So that's what I'd say in regards to that, bro. Inshallah. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Islam. Okay, mashallah, some of you guys have made some really nice statements. I'm not going to read them out, but they're there in the comment section for everyone to read. So for example, Shengami has made a really nice comment. Can I DM you on Instagram, Ahmed? Yes, you can, bro. But if I don't respond, I apologize in advance, because I'm really bad with getting back to my DMs on Instagram. The best place to contact me, bro, is probably the YouTube channel on the comments, because I'm responding to most of the comments, so we can touch base there, inshallah. Okay. So yeah, to be honest, Fawzia says that he's exposing a lot of ex-Muslims. Maybe he will realize truth gradually, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah, may Allah guide him. I don't know the full context of what's been happening with him, but I read through some of his tweets. And from what I've read, it seems like he's someone that is calling a spade, and he's pointing out, the problems within the ex-Muslim community, and the way they try covering things up. And what's really interesting, just from a purely psychological perspective, man, the way they attack Muslims, it's almost like what keeps them going is attacking Islam. I mean, if you don't believe in God and you've left Islam, well, then just live your life. Why waste time? What drives you to attack Islam so much? And that, look, it doesn't take too much. It doesn't take a psychologist to understand that they have really had some bad experiences as a Muslim, and they have connected the dots in some really strange ways, where the conclusion has been that God is bad or Islam is evil, and they have a hatred towards Islam for one reason. So in a way, I can empathize with them, but in a way, I mean, some of them they're intelligent, educated, grown-up men and women. They should be a bit more, what can you say, a little bit more academic in this way, and just look. We've had experiences. Everyone has negative experiences, and they shape the way we see things and understand things. But at least turn back to the source text and study them. But the way they come out and the way they attack Islam is obviously, it seems like there's a clear agenda there. Money is also a big thing, because but anyway, we don't need to get into that. So we've done predestination. Sabah says, how to balance Islamic studies in school. This is a very, like, there's a lot that could be said about this, but I look, generally, we have a lot of time, brothers and sisters. Let's be honest, right? We like to believe that we don't have much time. But when we really schedule our time and we really break it down, our days, there's a lot of time that we have to fit in everything, and a lot more. We don't realize how much time we actually waste, and that's something I realized when we did that Quran challenge a little while back. Something I realized was that we waste, as human beings, we waste a lot of time, even as Muslims, on things like social media, Instagram, surfing the web. We don't even realize how much time we're wasting. But if we cut that out and we focus, look, school, how long is school? You're there from say 9 to 5, from 5 till 10, 11 at least. You have time, right? Sure, you may be working, but you can always fit something in, right? For example, I'll give you an example. I find it hard to make time for reading. Yeah. By the time I get around to reading, say, a book or something, I'm just really tired, and it's a struggle at that point. So what do you do? We've got options today. You've got Audible, you've got audiobooks. Audiobooks you can listen to when you're driving, when you're walking, when you're exercising. So there's ways of fitting things in. Be creative with it. And first thing I'll say is chop out all of the extracurriculum activities which are a waste, such as social media, etc. Cut back on those, and you will start to see you have so much more time in your day. Plan your day, and just fit it in. You can do both together. We all should be doing Islamic studies alongside our lives anyway. So everyone should be studying something. Always, we should always be growing and learning something new. Even if you spend 5 minutes a day learning something new, reading some ayat of the Quran, spend some time, even if it's not a lot of time, inshallah. Okay, any other questions, guys? Please do let me know. Brother Mohin is asking my age. Yeah, bro, I'm 32. Alhamdulillah. So I'm slowly getting old, as we all are, mashallah. Okay, I'm just flicking through your questions. Yeah. So Darth says, honestly, I don't think I can survive as an atheist. I will spiral into nihilism and probably just end it. I mean, what's the point of suffering in this world if there is no point afterwards? Beautiful point, bro. That's a very, very deep few lines you've just written there, man. And it's true. What's the point of even suffering? I mean, just think about this, right? Everyone suffers. Life is full of suffering, right? Think about this for a second. What's the point of suffering? If life is meaningless, then why suffer? Why not just end it? I'm not condoning anything like this, but I'm just saying, if you just logically think about this for a second, what's the point of suffering on atheism? Why allow yourself to suffer? Right? That's something for people to think about, because look, from an Islamic perspective, we understand why suffering exists. We understand why we go through trials and tribulations and hardship. We understand why it's valuable to go through trials and tribulations and hardship. Sure, we may fall short sometimes and we may become weak. We're human, but Islam provides answers to even suffering. Islam provides meaning to suffering. That's how comprehensive Islam is. It addresses even suffering, man. Like, think about that. When you suffer, Allah, so many reasons, right? It brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It develops you as a human being. It removes sins from a spiritual perspective, right? What else? It develops you as a person. I mean, you learn things through your suffering, which make you not only a person that's going to be beneficial to yourself, but to others. Now you can go and help others that may be suffering, right? It's an opportunity for you to draw closer to your Creator. Because unfortunately, it's a part of our nature that only when we go through hardships do we wake up, right? And we turn back to Allah. And probably you guys can reflect upon your own lives, but maybe there's been times in your life where you've been the closest to Allah, and those times have been the most difficult times in your life, right? When you've been suffering and going through hardships. So there are many wisdoms and reasons for going through hardships and trials in this life from an Islamic perspective. But on atheism, there's no reason. Suffering is pointless. Why suffer? You know, so it's very beautiful comment, bro. Jazakallah khair. You know, and it's, I don't know, man. I really see what really baffles me, guys. The more I think about this, is how can a human being adopt a worldview or a philosophy which removes all meaning from his or her life, and how could they be okay with this and continue to live like this? It just is strange, honestly. So Sarwat says, any thoughts on Islam and Stoicism? Quite a few parallels there. Actually, there's a really good video on my channel I did with Musa Adnan on Stoicism. He shares some very interesting thoughts in regards to Stoicism. So definitely check that out. But what I would say again is, yeah, there's loads of parallels, there's loads of crossovers, but something you realize, and this was across the board. Let's broaden this discussion a bit. Not only Stoicism, but all of these New Age philosophies, you know, self-help philosophies and ideologies. You know, about all of these new books that are coming out on these types of topics. Most of the principles and ideas they share, number one, are very close to Islamic ideas. But I think what's more profound is, one thing you realize is that all of these ideas they share, you know, such as being honest and not lying, and being someone that's trustworthy, taking care of yourself like you would take care of someone else. Even Tools for Life by Jordan Peterson and all of these types of books. All of these ideas, as amazing and beautiful as they are, cannot be grounded on a worldview that denies God. But they never talk about this. You know, they never want to take the discussion to this point. At the end of the day, all of these things that they're sharing, which are profound and beneficial, they can't be grounded on the why do those things? Why live that way if life is meaningless and pointless? And this is why, going back to Islam provides this comprehensive system where not only it gives you rules for life, but it also grounds those rules in the Creator, meaning this is meaningful and we should do this, and everything is meaningful because Allah exists. You know, and in the absence of Allah, nothing means anything. So yeah, I think Stoicism and just generally other New Age philosophies, there are lots of parallels with Islam. And when you go through, when you read the Quran and go through the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his Sunnah, you will find everything that's mentioned in these philosophies there in one way, one shape, one form or the other. Okay, let's see. Where is it? So Fozia says, I think what the optimistic nihilists do is say that their hearts all is well and make they keep their hearts full to remain calm. So they're basically, what you're saying is they're fooling themselves. Three Idiots movie. So that type of philosophy, it's all good, it's all well, do this, be good, be just, be moral, take care of others, have a goal striving mindset, achieve things, all of these types of ideas and views. They just do them. And look, like we said, human beings are goal driven machines. It'll work. What they're saying will work. But if they ever sit down and think about, why should I do this? Why does it work? There will be no answers in the absence of God. Yeah, another logical says, atheists think everything is just chemical reactions. So why do you listen to your thoughts if they're just chemical reactions? How do you know? Yeah, I mean, it's all according to them. It's a very morbid way of looking at it. But the reality is, guys, look, all you are is just a rearrangement of molecules, and your brain is just a composition of different chemicals which are firing away at random, which are completely meaningless and pointless, and that's it. So why do anything? And it's interesting. They're so driven to push atheism as if it's the truth. What does even truth mean on atheism? I mean, why do we? I think about it this way. Why are we so concerned about truth? Why do we want to understand truth? Why do we want to not only understand it, but share truth? Why do atheists push atheism as true? What does truth mean? It's because truth is something good. That's how we understand it. It has a moral dimension to it, that truth is good. That's why we want to understand it, reach it, share it. But what is good and bad on atheism anyway? These are just arbitrary, random ideas which have no basis. It's just random stuff. Just these labels which are floating around without any intrinsic, without any grounding, any anchor. There's nothing objective about them. So if truth is neither good nor bad in atheism, then why even pursue it? What does that mean? It means, again, it means nothing. And hopefully we can appreciate just the black hole you are falling down when you adopt atheism. It's a bottomless pit, literally. Okay, let's go on. Are we doing for time? 7:60. Okay. So we'll do a few more questions, guys, and then we'll wrap up around 7:30, 7:40, inshallah. So Sora says, would that explain the baseline anxiety felt during my dabbling in agnosticism that comes from ignoring taqwa? Yes. So look, many people have been there, right? I can tell you from my personal experience, most of my life I lived as someone who you can say atheist, agnostic type, didn't really care about religion, God, didn't know anything about Islam, right? That view, that outlook, when you deny God, it's like it removes all stability. It just removes everything from you. There is no meaning to your life or existence. It just nothing makes sense anymore, and that leads to a lot of anxiety, angst, existential angst, as they would say, right? When you don't know who you are, when you don't know why you are, why you exist, why this world exists, why you not only do you exist, but why can you understand the world? Why can you think? Why are you conscious? Why can you ask these questions? It just leads to a deep, deep, deep state of anxiety. It's like this really, really, that it's very hard to explain the feeling, right? If you've experienced it, then you've experienced it, and it's just this type of darkness inside your heart. A very, 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 it's like a sinking, dark feeling inside you. And you feel like everything is closing in around you. Everything around you just doesn't feel real anymore. You just don't know what to think of it, right? It's like one way of thinking about it, it's like, think of any building or any structure that's being held together by bolts and screws and fixtures. Removing God is like removing all of those fixtures and all of those screws. The whole structure is going to come tumbling down. It's almost like what holds our sanity together, what holds our perception and understanding of the world together is the belief in Allah. That grounds everything for us. In the absence of God, everything falls apart, literally. So it's a very dark place. I've experienced it for many, many years, and I don't wish it upon anyone. And that's why I can really empathize with these atheists and these ex-Muslims, because I felt how that anxiety and that pain feels. And I it's a very, very scary feeling. It's like you're continuously experiencing death internally, but you're not dying, you're still alive. Therefore you keep experiencing the pain of this ongoing state of this limbo between death and life. It's a very, very scary, nasty thing to feel. So it's not comfortable at all. So yeah, absolutely, it can definitely relate to that, bro. That anxiety feeling. Okay, let's see. Uh, okay, if he was only convinced by your evidence, everything else is whatever you add to it. Description of atheism does not make any sense. Okay, so I think we have an atheist with us. He says atheism is only not convinced by our evidence. Everything else is whatever you add to it. If you can, I don't understand your comment, bro. If you can write that out again. I would love to address you, please, inshallah, God willing. So, okay, so here's something interesting. So Warrior says, I believe in God, but I feel the same scary situation of depression and anxiety of my existence. Okay, good. And I'll tell you the reason why you're feeling this is because you haven't made the link between your belief in God and your recognition of Him and life and what life is all about. That you haven't bridged that gap yet, and that's why you're feeling that way. And this is something that people have felt throughout history, right? Anyone that's believed in God but not believe that God has nothing but has, okay, let me put it this way. Anyone that's believed in God but hasn't acknowledged that God has something to do with their existence and the world, hasn't acknowledged teleology, what they call meaning, teleology from that perspective, they will still have that experience. They will still have those anxiety and that depression. You have to make that link. Now, I don't know if you're a Muslim or you're someone that's looking into Islam or is looking into religion, but if you look at what Islam has to say, Islam beautifully bridges that gap. God tells us He created us with a purpose. He informs us of that purpose. Now, when you start living in accordance with that purpose, things will start to add up for you, and slowly that depression and that anxiety will disappear. The more you realign yourself with who you are and you become aware of your true self and the purpose of your existence and your creator, the more that anxiety and depression will slowly, God willing, disappear. So hopefully that addresses your point, bro, as to why you may be feeling this. So try that out. Really start to look at that link between the two and start to get to really know who you are, why you're here, who your creator is, and internalize those realities, and that will really help make things clear for you, hopefully. Okay, sorry, I've lost where I am in the comments, so I need to just okay, so I'm gonna just read whichever ones I come across now. Okay, let's start from the bottom. Okay. Sorry, just popped. So mashallah, some of you guys are advising each other, which is really nice to see. Please continue to do this. Okay, so Alex says, I don't know how to stop myself from doing bad things. Look, bro, first thing I want you to realize, Alex, is that hopefully you're a Muslim. I assume you're a Muslim. I want you to realize that this is not something that's unique to you. Everyone struggles with sins, right? Everyone has vices, as they say, things that we feel weak towards. The piece of advice I'd give you, bro, something that's worked for me, and stuff I'm sharing with you guys is most of it's based on personal experience, right? Is realize, okay, do this. Really don't focus too much on the things that you're doing wrong right now, on the particular sins, because if you do that, you'll be treating the symptom, right? You won't be addressing the cause. One of the major causes behind why we continue to sin and do bad things is because we haven't really established a clear understanding of who Allah is and our relationship with Him, right? I'll give you one example of this, something I mentioned in a previous video as well. If we start to really internalize that God is the only one that we have to fear, we shouldn't fear anything or anyone else, because He is the creator. All power belongs to God. He is in control. Nothing else can affect us unless God allows that thing to affect us. Nothing can benefit us until God allows the thing to benefit us. If we can take this one concept now as an example and really internalize this, think about it clearly in our minds, internalize it, let it become a part of our beings. When you do this, bro, you will realize that you start getting power over the things that you're succumbing to and the sins that you're falling into over and over again. How? Here's the link. One thing we don't realize is that fear is one of the major factors behind why we continue to engage in those regular sins and the things that we keep doing over and over again. We do it, we say we're never going to do it again, then we return to it, we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. When you realize fear is one of the biggest contributing factors. Why? Because look, when you've done a sin and you say you're never going to do it again, and you feel good, you make tawbah, you turn away. A few days later, you are inclined towards that sin again. And one of the main reasons, sure, desires are at play there, or your passions, or your whatever else it may be, is at play. But you have a fear. There is an element of fear here. You are fearing what would happen if you didn't do that sin. You're afraid of the unknown, of not engaging in that sin anymore. And thoughts may come into your mind like, oh, if I don't do it, I'll feel depressed, I'll be sad, I'll just feel down, and I'm scared of feeling that way. There is an element of fear there, right? Now, if you realize Allah is the only one that should be feared and not these things, and that God has total power and control over these things, that should give you power and the strength you need to not repeat that sin, knowing that, yeah, sure, my mind's telling me, or maybe there's shaitan or Satan is whispering to me that if I don't do this, I'm going to feel really bad. But only God knows the truth. Only God's going to manifest what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. And God's told me, oh, I know this is the wrong thing to do, and I'm not going to do it for the sake of God because I fear Him alone. And know and rest assured in the fact that God will make the outcome of you not doing that sin a beautiful one. You won't feel depressed. You won't feel sad. If anything, you will feel amazing. It'll be the opposite, right? So again, going back to the point, sometimes we fixate on particular sins and actions, and we try not to do those, and we focus all of our energy on not to doing those. But what we fail to realize is that we're just treating a symptom. We're not dealing with the root cause. And in most cases, the root cause for us to continuously sin is just that we haven't understood Allah and established our relationship with Him properly. And therefore, we're not drawing the power and strength that we can if we had that connection and understanding of Allah embedded within our minds. And as soon as that's there, loads of things will change. You'll feel a sense of ability and power within you that you can just overcome those sins much easier than you would have otherwise. So that's what I'd advise, bro, in regards to that. And it's not because, and I'm sharing these things not because I've learned these things or whatever. It's because I've experienced these things myself, and I'm just sharing with you what seems to have worked for me, and hence I'm sharing those things with you, highlighting that, look, guys, no one's perfect, man. All of us have issues and problems. But that's what being human is all about. We're not supposed to be perfect beings. We're supposed to be beings that have fallibilities and weaknesses. Okay, let's see. Okay, guys, if you have any more questions, please do post them now, because otherwise we'll, inshallah, slowly bring this to a close. Yeah, Warrior, I just saw your question. I think we've addressed most of them, hopefully, inshallah. So, Warrior, like I said, bro, you need to bridge that gap between your acknowledgement of God and the understanding that He created everything with a purpose and a reason, and He created you with a purpose. And find what that purpose is in the Quran. Allah highlights that very clearly. Created us to know Him and worship Him. Something we discussed earlier in this live stream. So if you weren't there earlier, please go back and watch it. And it will bring things together for you. And first step is psychologically understanding, mentally understanding this, logically understanding this, and the second step is now to start living it. And the more you do that, you will start seeing things changing. It's about, this is why we always say Islam is not about only theory or knowledge. It's about implementing that, and we all have to try to do that to the best of our ability, inshallah. And we'll notice there's times where, I've had this, where we keep amassing information in our minds, but we don't act upon it, and that information is pointless. It has no worth, it has no value, unless we're using it and manifesting it. It's no different from, I don't know, you having some sort of silly irrational belief in your head. If it's just sitting there as an idea, as information, it's worthless. Okay. Yeah. So Logic says, what do you think I should study in college if I want more religious knowledge? I theology, Islamic studies, etc. Yeah, Islamic studies. If you're doing this in secular schools, Islamic studies is an option. You can study that as a course. But one thing I'd say, guys, look, again, personal experience here. Me personally, now see, I have to be careful with what I say because I don't want you guys to take the wrong end of the stick in understanding what I'm saying. But look, you have to understand education today, secular education in particular. There are loads of benefits to it. You know, you learn skills which you need to be able to earn a living in the world that we live in today, no doubt, right? But you have to realize that it's education constructed in a particular way to serve a particular purpose. So I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just think you're going to learn only through schooling, right? And university and secular education. Always have in your mind that half of your learning is going to be done through self-learning, right? Read books, watch YouTube lectures. If you're going to be on YouTube, use it properly. Learn about different topics. Learn about history. Study things yourself. And when you study, don't just read and internalize and accept what's being said always, right? Now, I'm not saying be skeptical, but what I'm saying is uh, when you learn something, sit there and think about what you've learned and ask yourself the question, how does what I've learned link with what I've learned previously, right? You want to start making these maps in your mind of knowledge. And it's a beautiful thing when dots start to connect in your head. It's a profound thing. Like, for example, one of the things I shared with you last time was between David Hume and Allama Iqbal. How their two opposing world views on outlooks linked into one fundamental ayah of the Quran. So this is what I want you to start doing in your minds as well, is that whenever you when you learn things, you're building up a bank of knowledge in your minds, right? When you're learning stuff, and whenever you learn something new, always ask yourself the question, how does what I've learned link with, or does it, firstly, it doesn't have to, but does what I've learned link with what I've learned already? Are there any correlations? Is there any links here? And how is it linked, right? That's one thing you should do. It's a very powerful exercise because it will strengthen those bags or those chunks of knowledge you already have in your mind when you link it to other parts of knowledge and information that you've learned. And the second thing is see how you can develop new ideas from what you learn, right? uh, you want to start critically thinking about things that you learn, right? See how you can develop what you've learned, and even how you can develop it, how you can better it, how you can put it into better words, or how you can add to it, etc. Do these mental exercises with yourselves because it's a very powerful thing to do. You're not taught how to do this in school. In school you'll be taught what you need to know, and you'll be given information and you'll be told to learn that information and internalize the information. Very few courses and subjects today encourage you to think in this way. So you have to do this yourself. And a lot of what I've been able to, whatever little I've been able to learn over the past 7-8 years, has been self-study. I hardly learned anything when I was in school, and that's a lot of it's down to me as well, because I wasn't really concerned or bothered. But a lot of the learning that I've been able to do has been just self-study, man. You have to have that as a side, do it as a side hustle, if you like, right? You're going to school, you're studying in school, you're going through secular education, you're doing your Islamic education, but at the same time, make some time to just read and learn new things. If you don't like reading, listen, audiobooks. There's so many audiobooks available today as well. Just keep learning in that way, inshallah. So I know you asked, your question wasn't directly related to what I covered, but hopefully that addresses your question as well, bro. Okay. How to read a book. Yeah, these are good books. This is actually a really good book on how to read a book. It's a classic as well. I don't remember. Yes, I think it's called How to Read a Book. So that's a good book to start with, I guess. I've asked a question about what if you stole a lot of money before converting to Islam. I wouldn't know. I'm not even going to try answering that. Like, please check that with someone of knowledge, inshallah. It's too late here for me to even try and uh, go into something like that. Um, okay. So, because you're his creation and he can do what he wants with you, I recommend to read the Quran regularly so that your heart finds rest. Yep, very beautiful advice. So praying Dhuhr and Asr, yeah, sure. I mean, look, it's just a general point. It's just wherever you. So did he ask praying Dhuhr and Asr every day a place to pray? Salah is the purpose. It's the main part of establishing. It's one of the main aspects of worship. We have to pray. We have to make the means. Look, trust me. If we want something to happen, we will make it happen. Right? It's just if we as human beings will something to happen, we really want something to happen, we will find the means to making it happen. you know if you want to pray at school, then you trust me, you'll find a way. Just think about it. Even if they don't give you a place to pray, just think about where you can go and pray. It's not impossible. We can pray, alhamdulillah, you can pray anywhere, as long as it's not obviously a very filthy, dirty place. But you just pray. You can pray outside, you can pray wherever you get the opportunity to pray. But key thing is, salah is not something we can mess around with and say, no, I'm not going to do it, or I can't do it. Okay, so I guess let's see if there's anything last. Yeah, okay. So I think, guys, we can inshallah wrap it up now. May Allah bless you guys for coming on to this live. Like I said, I'm gonna try to do these regularly midweek at some point. I'm not committing to a day yet, so I'm not gonna tell you guys we're gonna do it on a Wednesday, but I try to do it Wednesday or Thursday. Um, so yeah, may Allah bless you guys. If you have any questions, just know that midweek we're gonna have a live stream, so we can always come and engage with each other, inshallah, on this live stream. Um, yeah, and I guess to just wrap up, brothers and sisters, keep in mind, we should all keep in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a huge blessing, especially us guys, man. Like everyone here right now, I'm assuming is young. You're not going to be more than maybe 50, 60 years old. You still have some life ahead of you, inshallah, a very long life ahead of you. And just realize the blessing that Allah, first and foremost, He has given us the ability to recognize Him, to acknowledge Him, to be Muslim, to understand the truth of Islam. That in itself is such a huge blessing. We may not appreciate it from the inside, guys, honestly. And I always, whenever I think about this, it takes me back to a time a few years ago. My father was in hospital, and I was with him one day, and he was in the ward. And I still remember this clearly to this day. There was a man on the other side of the ward, a very old guy, maybe in his 80s or 90s or something. And he was sitting there, or he was lying in his bed, and his wife was next to him. And he would do this very strange thing. Every 5-10 minutes, he would wake up, look around. He wouldn't know where he was. And his wife would tell him where he was and, who she was. And then he will be okay with that. He will go back to sleep after a couple of minutes, wake up again 5-10 minutes later, again, confused as to where he is, who he was, who's this woman sitting next to him. And she would keep telling him, and he would go back to sleep, and this will keep repeating itself over and over again. And at that point, I just realized, subhanAllah, that this guy, man, this man, this 18, 19-year-old man has probably lived his entire life. And now he's coming to the end of his life, to the point where, as Allah says, some of them, those that would live to an old age would be, go back in age, if you like. They'll lose, all of the things they learn, and and go back to that state of being almost as if you were a child. Now he's gotten to an age where he's literally forgetting everything. He doesn't remember anything. He doesn't even remember who his wife is. He maybe had Alzheimer's, whatever the case was. And I thought this man's lived his entire life. He's 90 years old. He had a full life. God knows what he did in that life, but he's probably here today, and he's at that stage where he's forgetting everything now, unlearning everything. His mental faculties are being taken away from him. And at this point, this guy's sitting here, and he probably has never been made aware of his creator. He's probably never come across the truth of Allah, of Islam. And now look at him, and his whole life is lived, and he's going to soon return to his creator, being completely oblivious to the whole purpose of his existence on earth. Man, I mean, if we really think about it from that perspective, and how many people that are out there that are in that very same situation as that man, that have lived entire lives and they don't know who they are, who their creator is, why they were created. And there's us who have been blessed with this truth. The reverts amongst us, the born Muslims amongst us, it's a blessing, a huge blessing. And we need to thank Allah for this first and foremost, and then also recognize that it's a responsibility upon us now to share this with others too. I mean, what else could you do? If you know you have been blessed with such a great blessing, give this to others, share this with others. And that's what da'wah is, to share the truth with others. And honestly, brothers and sisters, wallahi, and I say this over and over again, sometimes our da'wah, we are not understanding the true significance of this responsibility. So we need to just really be out there in whichever way we can, online, writing posts. Again, think about your skills. How can you use them in the da'wah? And start sharing the message of Islam with people, because people are in desperate need of this truth, especially today, in the times that we live in. So I guess I'll leave it there, brothers and sisters. May Allah bless you all. I will touch base with you, inshallah, next week. I have another video coming out tomorrow, so check that out when it's out. Other than that, yeah, may Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum. Take care, guys.